Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the December 8th Special Council meeting. I'd like to recognize that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Tsayuumak First Nation. Our clerk today will be Ms. Sheila Gurry. Today's special meeting of council is being held in accordance with the Community Charter and Council Procedure Bylaw 2018, number 7272. If during the meeting any member of the gallery has a question regarding an agenda item, please write down your name and the agenda item on the sheet, which is on the table to the double doors to my left. And please note the Council Procedure Bylaw states questions will only be taken on staff reports, consent items, or other business items. As some of the more experienced attendees at Council know, I have a long warning that I can give and read out about behavior and decorum and respect, but seeing as how I think most of you have been here before, or all of you have been here at least once or twice, I'm going to dispense with that today. The first item on the agenda is the introduction of late items. Ms. Gurry, we do have a couple, please.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. For late items this afternoon, we have under new agenda, we're adding a new agenda heading, question period, which will directly follow other business and will renumber the subsequent agenda items accordingly. And then we'll reschedule the recess to follow agenda item 6, question period. And as this is a special meeting to deal with the consent items in order to have the financial plan bylaw come before you on the 15th, any additional budget items that council may have that have arisen out of the consent items or the meetings the other day would be best dealt with under other business. So if council has items to add, we'll deal with it under other business aside from what's already on the agenda. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Motion for adoption of the agenda is amended. Moved Councillor Hemmens, seconded Councillor Armstrong. All those in favor and any opposed? None. Motion carries. A motion for adoption of the consent items. Councillor Thorpe, you're moving and seconding. Councillor Perino. All those in favor and any opposed? None. Motion carries. On to other business. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to move, and if there's a seconder, I'll speak to it, that the allocations of $660,900 from the General Capital Reserve and $496,200 from the General Revenue for the ENN Light Project be reallocated to pedestrian and active transportation projects for completion in the 2025 budget year.
Seconded Councillor Armstrong. Discussion on this, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. With limited resources, I think if we're spending our if we're spending capital on active transportation projects, I think we have a whole list of projects around schools within some of the neighborhoods where this money could be better spent. That is a dark section of the ENN corridor for sure, but typically people that are riding into the evening hours have the appropriate gear and the lights on their bike. And so if they are active riders, some of these other projects, especially around pedestrian safety, I think could definitely benefit from this funding. So I think it's money better spent, and I hope council will support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hemmens.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not opposed to this, primarily for the rationale that Councillor Brown offered, which is that this money will be better dispersed serving more people than those who access the ENN. I'm curious about the timeline, though, for completion in 2025. I don't think that's realistic, and I'd be curious to hear from staff.
Ms. Mercer, please.
Through Your Worship, yeah, that was the point I was going to bring up. It would have to be 2026 because the funding for that project is, yeah, okay.
Oh, not.
So the motion, everybody, we're agreed on the wording? Can we put the wording up on the screen just to be safe for everyone, please, and for those folks who are here?
If I may.
I'm not sure we have it yet, Your Worship.
Councillor Hemmens.
Thank you. Still on the timeline, that's a serious influx of cash into that program for 2026. Again, I'd like to hear staff's comment on the timeline. Thank you.
Mr. Sims, Mr. Rose, we'll take it as it goes.
If I may, I'm As I stated, I'm not opposed, but I also don't want to just pile more stuff on to a long list and just have a list of things that aren't getting done.
Okay, so through the chair, just so I'm clear on the question, so the money would be moved from the ENN project to the pedestrian unallocated to be brought forward through a council report for allocation to various projects. I would say that the capacity is going to be the same as it would be with other projects. We have to move them through the cycle. Some projects may take as little as a year, but generally speaking, that's a 2-year horizon for delivery. So I think that it's something we could deliver on, but it would require that full process. So.
Thank you. In order, Councilors Prino, Thorpe, Armstrong, and Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. Okay, so I have a couple of questions for Mr. Rose. The motion, which we're still waiting to see, is for next year. You just said a 2-year timeline. So are we talking, does the motion need to read 26, 27? That's my first question.
Through your worship, I don't believe that it needs to read 26, 27 because typically we allocate the funds in the year that we identify the project, and then the project will just move through the system.
Okay, thank you. And another question, Your Worship, through you to Ms. Mercer. My understanding was that the funding that we had talked about for the ENN Trail was not actually earmarked. Where would this money be coming from? Or I should not say not earmarked, not agreed to come. So where would it come from?
Through your worship to Councillor Perino. So the ENN Trailway Lighting Project is in the current,
It is in, okay.
the 2026 to
I wasn't
30.
sure that we had actually voted on it. Thank you for that. Thank you. And so where does that money come from then? Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, that the funding for that project, as Councillor Brown pointed out, 660,900 are from the General Capital Reserve, and 496,200 are from general revenue in 2026.
Okay, so how much will be the total amount that we are putting to active transportation for pedestrian?
1,157,100.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe.
Yeah, sorry, Your Worship, I just wanted to check the wording. As I spoke on last Wednesday, I guess it was, I would prefer that we go ahead with the ENN project, which we have discussed before, and rather than put this money into some unknown projects for future, I see the ENN as a very important recreational facility, which is extremely well used. And I feel that it also does speak to pedestrian safety for the users of that trail in the early morning or evening hours when it's very dark in places. So I don't think I can support the motion on the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to be clear, that wording is the correct wording in terms of the date? So it's all the 2026 budget year? Okay, just so we're clear. Councillor Armstrong?
Thank you. A question for staff. If we remove the ENN trail lighting, there's been lots of incidences, and I know I'm aware of some of them, where people then don't use that trail at night and they actually use the highway because of that. Can you comment to that if you have any knowledge?
Mr. Sims?
Thanks, Your Worship. Just briefly, one of the rationale for putting in the trail, other than we could and for recreational purposes, was really to move people off the highway, especially during slushy or winter events, just to allow that commuter route. And this goes back to Mr. Harding's era in the 90s, I would say.
Thank you. Yes, I won't be supporting the project. I think the money is much better spent on the ENN trail where that trail is used constantly. And as a person that drives that highway at all different times, days and nights, you quite often do see cyclists and pedestrians on the highway because it's better lit. And $1 million doesn't buy you much sidewalk where it really does help the trail. So for those reasons, I won't be supporting this at this time.
Councillor Brown, then Councillor Gesselbrock.
Sorry, Your Worship, I think I'm just a holdover.
Okay. Councillor Gesselbrock, then Councillor Eastburn.
Great, thank you. Although I'd love to see the lighting on the path, I do think that at this stage of the game, that level of investment in active transportation it could go farther with the backlog of community requests and needs for, different safer and accessible amenities on the streets. Thanks.
Councillor Easterby.
Thank you. I'm not going to support this because I have been hearing about plans to light this section of the ENN for a really long time, and I know that it's a well-used area, and we see people traveling in the dark, and that section of highway is really, it's not lit at all, so it's very, very dark at night. And so I really actually see this as a key section of our pedestrian and active transportation that we should do it properly so that it can be used as the connective spine that it really is in Nanaimo.
Thank you. For what it's worth, I am going to support the motion. I think it is an appropriate use. My observation of the trail, particularly at nighttime, is there are lots of adjacent buildings, et cetera, and various other lighting from cars. The likelihood of some horrible altercation involving a speeding motor vehicle is impossible on the ENN trail, whereas the other projects that staff have identified over the years strike me as being more worthy of safety. As I said, and I don't want to sound like a cynical old guy from Coombs, BC, but when I grew up, there was no such thing as street lighting. If you rode a bike at night or walked somewhere at night, you either chose to walk in the dark, or you took a flashlight, you wore clothing, you put a light on your bicycle, whatever. You took some steps to protect yourself at night. So for what it's worth, I just think that the better bang for the buck safety-wise is in what Councillor Brown's motion suggests, so I will be supporting it. Anyone else? Motion's on the floor. All those in favor? Councillors Gesselbrock, Hemmens, Mayor Krogh, Councillor Brown, Councillor Manley, and those opposed, Councillors Armstrong, Eastmere, and Thorpe and Perino. The motion carries. Thank you very much. That was a real fight. Any other business? Councillor Thorpe, please.
Yes, Your Worship, there is something that I would like to bring forward as a new motion, and I believe this was distributed by email to Council this afternoon, and hopefully we can get it up on the screen because it's a little bit wordy. And there it is, and if I could see it clearly, I'd read it. So do you wish me to read it, Your Worship, for the benefit
Please.
of viewers?
Yes, everyone else, please.
The motion is that the Finance and Audit Committee recommend that Council A direct staff to proceed with detailed design and construction. Sorry.
Yes, Your Worship, I was just going to say that. It should say that council, direct staff, because,
I'll read from the big print.
thank you. No, you read it right, Councillor Thorpe, it's just worded wrong.
All right. Direct staff, can people hear me? Direct staff to proceed with detailed design and construction costs for option C1 of the Loudon Park Development Project as outlined in the November 19, 2025 report to Council and develop an engagement plan. B, direct staff to update the 2010 Loudon Park Improvement Plan to include text and images of the expanded park area and the new associated site layout diagram as outlined in the 2025 November 19 report to Council. C, allocate $1.3 million in 2028 of the 2026 to 30 provisional financial plan to the Loudon Park Improvements Project for non-amenity building related park improvements as outlined in the 2025 November 19 report to Council, funded by $800,000 from the Strategic Infrastructure Reserve Fund and $500,000 from the General Capital Reserve. And finally, D, direct staff to prepare a plan for future phasing of non-amenity building related park improvements to include landscaping, picnic shelter, children's play area, and equipment and interpretive signage and other elements outlined in the 2025 November 19 report to Council. Sorry for the length, and if I get a seconder, I'll speak briefly to it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Thorpe. Councillor Perino seconds.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm really pleased to see the Loudon project move ahead, and I think there was a couple of gaps in our earlier motions when we discussed this project, and I feel that this motion relates to those, specifically the park improvements and the engagement process and basically transparency of how this project develops. So there is some additional cost involved, which I recognize, but I think it's an important aspect of the overall park improvement plan that we intended for Loudon. So I hope it'll get support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Armstrong.
Yes, I just have a question on what the engagement plan is for when there's been so much engagement already, and that's where we've gotten to this. I don't know what the purpose of an engagement plan would be.
Okay, through the chair to council, the engagement would be as we develop designs and things like accessibility. Engagement plan would include, much like we did with Westwood Lake, confirming that we're on the right track with the details, because we have yet to go to the community with a final design now that council's directed us this way. So the engagement plan would also lay out decision points for the advisory committee on accessibility and inclusion, timelines and points, decision points for council, as well as when the community would get information updates and points of input. Thank you.
So I guess my question would be then, wouldn't that develop an engagement plan be better under D? Because as far as I'm concerned, the engagement plan has already been done for the development project as outlined in the report.
Through council, I think we would include all of that in the engagement. And through your worship to council, option C1 may not be exactly like the building that was, the buildings that were first developed on the original site plan, and now that there's a new site, there are some nuances with how a new building would fit on the new location. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. For what it's worth, Councillor Armstrong, I certainly take your point, but I think the way it's worded, notwithstanding Councillor Thorpe's criticism of his own motion, which I find refreshingly detailed, I think he's got the engagement plan in the right section. So, Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship, and just a couple of added comments. I think it's important to engage the public wherever, and I certainly celebrate that we continue to connect with them to make sure that we're on the right track. But what I like about this particular option is that allocating the 1.3 in the 2028 of the 2026 to 2030 provisional financial plan is the best way to move this forward, getting it done in the future. So it's a good plan, it's forward-thinking, and it's finally getting the work done. So I'm hoping we vote in favor of it.
Thank you very much. If there's no other speakers, Councillor Gesselbrock.
Thanks. I'm grateful and relieved to see the direction that this project's taking, and I genuinely believe that it'll be of benefit to the community. That said, I do have concerns with committing the full funding at this stage. I think that we still need to get a more detailed design, and given the magnitude of investment, I mean, there's going to be some substantial community amenity space in this area, but it is blended with more restricted access club space, although it'll be benefiting the community that do use it. But I do think that there is room to figure out and increase expectation on a fundraising contribution to it. I think the original fundraising contribution was in the mid-2000s, was $100,000 when the project was $1 million, and now the project is substantially more, and the contribution is still the same. And so I think that if I don't think there's a need to commit all this funding at this time and spend a bit more time figuring out different avenues for the funds. And so at this reason, for these reasons at this time, I'm not able to support the motion going forward at this moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Manley, please.
Thank you. Just a question through you to staff about, we get questions on email about is there an MOU with the paddling clubs? Are there arrangements for user fees, et cetera? Just curious about what arrangements we have going forward.
Okay. Through the chair to Councillor Manley, we have Ms. Davis here who can speak to the existing arrangements we have. And one thing I would let council know is with all our user groups, whether it be rugby, soccer, etc., we have something like 85. So over to Ms. Davis.
Okay.
Ms. Davis, good afternoon. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Through the chair to Councillor Manley, we do have agreements in place with the rowing club and the canoe kayak club at present at Loudon Park, and these are due to be updated. The agreements that we have in place at present speak only to the amenity that are in place as they stand. And so the work to update those would begin next year. There'd be a lot of pre-work thinking about what is going to be the new space, how it will be used, and how that will be made into a new agreement. That's all to begin next year.
Okay, and will that agreement include fundraising plans for working with the clubs to help fundraise, or user fees, that kind of thing?
It could, through the chair again, it absolutely could, yes. And in the past, where we've done major capital projects in partnership with other groups, we have been able to work that into the agreement. So that is something that we plan to speak with to the groups in the early next year.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't have a problem with allocating funds in 2028. I know we could probably see a change in the budget and the planning leading up to that, but I think that it's good for the public to know that we are planning to go ahead with that, and I think it makes sense that that happens kind of in tandem with the construction project that we're improving the beach amenities and the playground area, et cetera. So thank you.
Thank you very much. If no further discussion, the motion's on the floor. All those in favor? And any opposed? Councillor Gesselbrock, motion carries. Thank you very much. Any other business? Yes. Councillor Thorpe.
If I may, Your Worship, through you, a question, and I apologize for my faulty memory, but I'm not sure where we ended up on the Luminous Paths issue, and I'm curious about that, please.
Into the dark or the light, Ms. Gurry, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So at the committee level, it was discussed, it was reconsidered, it failed. However, this is a different meeting type. This is council. Any member of council can bring any item to the table at any time, so you could bring this back, Councillor Thorpe, should you wish, and or any absent member that was absent from the meeting is welcome to as well, but it's not like a typical reconsideration from a council meeting, which would be a council meeting to a council meeting, or a finance and audit meeting to a finance and audit meeting. This is a council meeting now, so any topic that was discussed at committee level could be rediscussed at a council meeting.
Thanks, Ms. Gurry. So is now the time for a motion?
Yes, it would be if you would like to, yes.
So if I get a seconder, I'd like to speak to this, and my motion would be what I believe was option 3, which related to sponsoring the Luminous Paths project every second year.
We're just going to bring it back up onto the screen from the December 3rd meeting. Is that the one you were thinking of, Councillor Thorpe?
Yes, on the biennial basis.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. So if there's a seconder, I'll speak to that.
Seconded, Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Councillor Perino. So when we discussed this last week, I was not enthused about the Luminous Paths project, and I apologize to the organizers on staff. That was my personal opinion, but over the weekend I did speak to a number of people, including those in the hospitality and the tourism sector, and they were quite convincing in their feeling that this was a positive and useful project. They also pointed out that to sponsor it or get it organized for this winter, the time frame is actually very tight and might not even be feasible. But the idea of every second year held a great deal of appeal, and it was felt through the tourism lens that it would be a worthwhile project. So I'm willing to reconsider, in that sense, reconsider my original viewpoint on this, and would like council to discuss having this festival every second year. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hemmens, Armstrong, Gesselbrock, Eastern, Perino, in that order. Councillor Hemmens.
Everyone, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Councillor Thorpe. I was also going to bring this back for reconsideration for the same reasons. I understand the tourism sector is really excited about this, and also just it's an amazing festival. Staff put in a ton of work, and it was really well received. So I was actually going to move to have the annual one put in place, but I find the timeline of it compelling. It would be difficult to get off the ground this year, so I'm happy to support the biannual, and if we can reevaluate as funding becomes available going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you. My question is through to staff, if I see Ms. Breen's here. If we went to the 50,000 a year, would that be doable? My concern is if we go every other year, can you build the momentum that is required for a festival like that?
Through the chair to Councillor Armstrong, if I could have Jamie Brett speak to Councillor Armstrong's question around the 50,000. Thank you. And
through the chair, yes, it's just how you prioritize. So the priority with a smaller budget would of course be, as we were initially, focusing a lot on sponsorship as well, but then focusing on the art we are commissioning. And then we're looking at, with that smaller budget, potentially having, a few less performers as it would be, but the focus would be on the artwork we commission, and it's still a doable budget to commission those illuminated pieces for the festival.
So if we went as this motion is, do you think the momentum would still go if it's every other year, or is it better to do it yearly?
I think so. Cities like Victoria do their illumination festival every other year. So there are some examples to follow in that way. It also is allowing a little bit more time for momentum to build in terms of the community knowing about it, in terms of sharing that information, also allowing artists more time to create as well and to really develop partnerships too. So there are some benefits in that way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kesselbrock.
Thanks, Mayor, through you. I'm more inclined to support option 2, doing the 50,000 on an annual basis. I think, this particular year there might not be enough time to make it happen, and it may not happen. But I do think every 2 years. It is a bit fragmented in terms of momentum, and I think having it on annual would create the consistency needed to, get the most out of it and make it sort of a bit of a tradition here in Nanaimo in the winter, as opposed to having one dark year and one light year. So I won't be supporting this particular motion, but if it does fail, would support option 2 being brought forward for the annual funding, knowing that probably something this year might not get off the ground, but going forward, there'd be consistent funding for a well-appreciated festival. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And just so we're clear, everyone's using the term this year as if we're going to put it on in this winter. We're talking about next winter.
No, we're talking
2026, December, just to be clear. Because we have an audience out there who I hope is not as obtuse as me, but I just want to be sure that we're all clear in what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's in January. Your Worship, my understanding is that it is in the budget for 2026 in January, February this year, not at the next, like 2027.
Okay,
So
all right.
I will.
Glad we clarified that. I'll wait for a moment.
So just to clarification, currently it would be the way Ms. Fuller has the option is the biannual would be in 2026, and then every 2, like 28, 30. However, if you wanted to skip this coming up January, February, it would be in January, February of 2027. So we would need clarification on, do you want it this year or do you want it next year? And I say 26 or 27.
I'm going to let Councillor Thorpe speak. So it's his motion.
Thank you, Your Worship. I appreciate that. Just to clarify my intent, and after my conversations with tourism, that it would be a challenge to get the planning in place for January of 2026. So my intent was that the festival would be held in 2027 and biennially, presumably after that. That was my intent. Thank you.
And that's what the seconder understands as well. So what we're talking about is starting it for January of 2027, just so we're all clear, not this winter.
So,
Not showing any bias here, but throwing together something now in December for January and February
The
without,
motion says 2026. Yes.
without being advertised, yes.
yeah, your worship, I believe, like, this motion in front of you and that was before you on the 3rd is for January, February 2026. That was the intent, and the budget numbers were for that as well.
Through the chair, would you mind giving staff a few minutes as we figure out the logistics of a potential date change? Thank you, because there's some nuances here with the artists needing to have the funding earlier to be able to roll it out in January of any year. So would you mind giving us a brief moment? Thank you.
Can we take 5 minutes, everyone? Yes. Councillor Perino, sorry.
Let's just take 5.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think that Councillor Thorpe did speak about the fact that it was his motion to bring this forward with the event beginning in 2027, to which I said as the seconder, I would agree to that. So I'm not sure we're prepared to go backwards on that. I think if we're following Councillor Thorpe's motion.
Sorry, Your Worship, I thought we were in recess. That is what staff are working on figuring out right now, Councillor Perino, because that is not what you were seconding, the motion that's on the screen.
But Councillor Thorpe just spoke to it and said.
Yes, so we're working on what you believe you
Okay.
seconded.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
5 minutes, everyone. Sorry.
With a new downtown transit exchange on Terminal Avenue, which will expand multimodal connectivity in the heart of downtown. And we're poised for a giant leap when Terminal Avenue streetscape upgrades are extended through downtown all the way to Stewart Avenue. Back in 2015, residents were asked to share their greatest fear for the future of Terminal Avenue. That fear? Nothing will change, and the challenge of achieving an active and attractive gateway to Nanaimo is insurmountable. Those fears were heard, and the challenge accepted. Today we're reimagining Terminal Avenue as a walkable, green, and beautiful downtown street.
Hi, I'm Recycling.
And I'm Wish Cycling.
Wish, I have to say, I'm really loving your t-shirt.
Well, I do love recycling.
Stop it, you're gonna make me blush.
Absolutely. Wait, no, not you recycling. I heart recycling. I like you, but I love the act of recycling. I put everything in the blue cart.
I don't know if you understand the blue card completely. Have you ever heard of contamination?
Oh yeah, that's when your Brussels sprouts touch your mashed potato.
So we'll hear from them, and then I can help in making the,
Amend the motion to what
Yeah.
Councillor Thorpe wanted to say.
yeah, so first let's hear from finance, just because what's on the screen right now is just has the year changed, but the monies might need to be changed as well, just based on what finance has figured out. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Mercer and Ms. Fulla.
Ms. Mercer, please. And are you going to pass it to Ms. Fulla? This is a pretty hot potato. Ms. Fulla, please.
Yeah, so we've had a look and discussed with the department, and we'd actually split the budget over 2 years because they'd have incur some costs in 2026 to put the event on in 2027. So you're looking at a 0.01% property tax increase in 2026 and 0.02% in 2027. And we'd like the motion amended more along the lines of to add the Luminous Festival to the financial plan every other year, starting in 2027 with an initial budget of 86,000, with any sponsorship funding reducing the cost to the city. And the budget we don't want to lock that budget to a particular year because we're going to split that budget between 26 and 27 to allow them to plan the event as necessary. Clear as mud?
Thank you very much. I think it is clear as mud. Does someone want to move the amendment to the motion? Councillor Thorpe is moving the amendment, seconded Councillor Perino. Can we see what the amended motion would look like if we pass the amendment?
Yeah, perhaps Ms. Fulla can go help Ms. Sponigal quickly with that. Thank you.
And that,
Through the chair to council, thank you for your patience as we pivot to.
Sorry?
Thank you for your patience as we pivot to get you the motions that you want.
So there's the amendment, Your Worship.
so, but that's what it would look like if it's amended. So the amendment is to simply state that it's starting in 2027 as opposed to 2026, and then increased by 2% a year. Is that?
So that was in the original motion, so I think the changes are the 2027 and base funding of 86,000. So base funding is a change, and that is because it could be decreased based on the sponsorship funding received, and it would apply to reduce that funding. So we wanted to adjust the 86,000 as just a base. It could be increasing or decreasing.
All right, so the amendment is on the floor. Any discussion on that? Councillor Thorpe? Oh.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Speak to it first.
So what we have on the screen is now on the floor, just to be clear?
Well, that's what the motion will look like if we pass the amendment. The amendment is to change the date to 2027 from 2026 and to change the amount, correct?
Yeah, to change the funding from 86,000 to, say, base funding, and to apply any other additional funding, sponsorship funding received, to reduce that 86,000. So 86,000 was in the original motion. It just now we have included base funding, and sponsorship funding would reduce that amount.
Thank you. So, first of all, Your Worship and Council, I apologize for causing all of this confusion. No good deed goes unpunished, as I was simply trying to express my support for this festival on a biennial basis, and my intent was what is reflected in the amendment there, starting in 2027, and I appreciate the good advice from our finance department. So I will support this amendment.
Does anyone, Ms. Fuller, sorry?
Just one other thing I'd like to mention, the calculation for the impact to property taxes was based on the fact we actually have 16,500 in sponsorship funding as of today for the event. And of course, if there is more sponsorship funding that comes up between now and when we execute it, we would take that into account when we bring forward the 2027 to 2031 financial plan. So we might need less property tax funding in 2027 to complete the event, depending on how successful the sponsorship campaign is.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Eastmere, you wish to speak to the amendment to the motion?
Yes, thank you. I have a question through to staff actually about the planning for hosting this in 2026. And I haven't heard anything other than an anecdote from Councillor Thorpe about the difficulty of planning for hosting it in 2026. And forgive me if I can't put much stock in a single anecdote from Councillor Thorpe. I have to wonder, like, you've been gathering sponsorship, so obviously there was an intent and a capacity to host it in 2026.
Ms. Sine, Ms. Mercer, please illuminate us. Couldn't resist saying that.
Through the chair. Yeah, really good question. I won't lie, if as wonderful as it would be to have it in 2026, planning that event in about another month and a half is a real challenge. With that said, I do have a good relationship with the artists I work with, who are very game to do that, but no doubt having a year to plan does allow for me to do an open call to artists versus me approaching it as a curator and specifically commissioning works. So there is a lot of appeal in an open call in terms of allowing opportunity for artists that I may not be aware of or may not have engaged. Now, when it comes to sponsorship, we have had some really great investment from the sponsors we're working with. We're also partnering with Snuneymuxw, and those are relationships that I would like to continue, and I am hopeful that they'd be very eager to come on for 2027, especially because it allows for more time to promote their involvement as sponsors as well. So I think there's going to be some appeal in that. It is an unknown, of course, but it also does allow for a bit of time for us to seek out other applications for sponsorship as well. So there's a little give and take in that. Mm-hmm.
And so for the sponsorship money that's been committed thus far, is there a baked-in understanding that that sponsorship would?
So, sorry, not to cut you off, sorry, through the chair. So we were waiting for these conversations. So there was always a bit of an unknown in terms of what the direction from council would be. So the sponsors were aware of that, aside from, online applications for sponsorship where you don't have a conversation. But who we have engaged so far, all of whom I'm speaking with this week to report back what direction we're going, they were aware that there was a bit of an unknown in terms of what direction we were going to get from council. So nothing was signed and sealed just yet.
Okay, I appreciate that context. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion to amend? Councillor Manley?
Thank you. And yeah, thank you. I had similar questions to Councillor Eastmere. The sponsorship money that you've identified so far, will that carry over into 2027 or is that only for 2026?
Through the chair, the sponsors signed on for 2026, but I do think there is potential to speak to them about that being an ongoing partnership because they were fairly unique conversations around that sponsorship in terms of the involvement of community and the community engagement as part of that sponsorship. So as an example, I'm working with an organization that is very eager to sponsor and to put forward funds for me to work with an emerging artist. I know that's something they'd like to do on an ongoing basis. So I'm hopeful that I'll be able to continue to have those partnerships in 2027.
And I hear what you say about putting out an open call, but how do you feel about curating a show for 2026 and trying to just move this forward?
Through the chair, I've done it once. I did it in a month and a half in 2025. That was still this year. And so, yeah, it's something I'm capable of doing. It's something that I was looking at using the artists already engaged in our programs, like our urban design roster and commissioning work from them, as well as the way we had partnered with Snanamach as well, and involved some of their artists too. So it's definitely a very abbreviated timeline to do things, and a different approach is needed because of that. But yes, I have done it the once.
That's how you operated last year.
It's how I had to do it in
the funds
2025.
identified in December, and you pulled this off in January, February.
You got it. Yeah, we had it done in about a month and a half.
Okay, thank you. I thought it was a great festival, and I'd like to actually see the momentum carry on with it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to the motion to amend? Councillor Eastmere again, please.
Thank you. I'm going to support the amendment and appreciate the clarification around the timing and the capacity for staff, and recognizing that I wasn't in favor of this, but my mind's been changed by the conversation, so thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the amendment? Any opposed? None. The amendment carries. We're now back on the main motion, which is the motion on the screen in front of us. Discussion, Councillor Perino.
Thank you, Your Worship. So just a very quick question. So if I'm hearing you correctly, the 86,000 that we're putting in, should we still receive even the grants we have verified today? So it'll come in around, well, just shy of 70,000, right? So is that right? That's right? No, I'm not worried about the math, but I'm just wanting to make sure that it reduces it. So, because there was some discussion about the 50,000 range, and what I'm hoping is that given this extra time, it not only allows the artists to give a more fulsome time to do the work that they need to do, but also to allow sponsorships to come forward and make sure that we can maybe bring this down to a price tag that makes it worthwhile. And I disagree with some of the councillors that said that this needed to be every year. I think there would be a huge amount of excitement by having it on a biannual basis. It just allows the artists time to review their work, decide what they like, and how to move forward. So I'm excited for it. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Thorpe.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? I've got Councillors Manley, Thorpe, and Eastmere on the list. Do you wish to speak to the main motion now?
Yeah.
Councillor Manley?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm actually in favor of doing this annually. I would have picked option 2, and so if this motion fails, that's what I'd like to see go forward. I think that we have momentum from last year. We can build on that this year, and I think that this is it's a fantastic festival, and you know, for the winter months, I think it brings a lot of joy to people and activates the park, and so I want to see it happen every year. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else on the main motion? Councillor Thorpe?
If I may, Your Worship, yes. Just to clarify in response to Councillor Eastmere's comment earlier, my conversations were not with city staff, and I don't mean to speak to them or for them in terms of their capacity for organizing, which I really respect, but my conversation was directly with the CEO of Tourism Nanaimo, who felt that it would be a challenging timeline for tourism to effectively promote this project for January of 2026. So that was the avenue that I was coming from in my argument about a tight timeline for organizing. So if I was unclear on that, sorry, didn't mean to be, and you can take that anecdotal comment for whatever stock you want to put into it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Eastmere?
Thank you. Noted, Councillor Thorpe. I appreciate that context. I also would have supported option 2. That was really my preference, to see an annual event. I think it's helpful to know that cities like Victoria do a biannual. I know the amount of time that goes into organizing something like this and putting out the call for artists and giving them a chance to actually create, to both submit a proposal and then create that piece. I think we may get better pieces if they have more time to work on it. I know we have an amazing roster of local artists that staff have a strong relationship with, and I really value that. And I think in addition to that, having time to put it out to additional artists to really diversify our offerings at the Luminous Paths Festival will be a benefit. And I appreciate the increased funding of the 86,000 so that we can have more performers, because I think that's a really important aspect of this festival, to really activate that park space. And having attended a number of times last year, seeing the opening and the closing bookend events, I know, for example, the Collective Groove Disco that happened was really fun, and I've heard from lots of people in the community that they really enjoyed being able to dance around the park, and I hope that that's one of the performances that we see in the future with that participatory aspect. So I'm glad we got to take another crack at this motion, and I think this is going to be a benefit to our arts and culture sector, and give lots of time for both creation and promotion, which is critical to the success of a festival like this.
Thank you. Question for staff. We got it down to 6.34 the other day. What will this take us to, Ms. Fulla or Ms. Mercer?
We will still be at 6.3.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to support it this time, notwithstanding the other day. I was certainly prepared and did speak against it for this year, because I wanted to keep the tax increase as low as is reasonably possible. Given that this is going to be a biennial event, and that's good enough for the capital city of the province, it strikes me that it certainly should be good enough for Nanaimo. But I must say, candidly, having attended an event recognizing the 36th anniversary of the Montreal Massacre on Saturday night, the lighting that is there now, and I'm looking at park staff in particular, is amazing, and there were lots of families down there without the benefit of a festival, the Luminous Festival. Paths Festival, already taking their kids around at what was a beautifully decorated and amazingly attractive park. So, having said that, all those in favor and any opposed? Councillor Gesselbrock and Councillor Manley, the motion carries. Thank you. Any other business? Thank you, staff. If not, question period, Ms. Gurry? I suspect there's nothing. So, can Councillor Brown and I just switch chairs? Or do you want to take a short break? Or
So there is now a recess. If you